The night is always tricky. You're drawing an organic shape. It's not something that's very geometric like what, you know, these cylinders and things like that are that basically we're creating on a lathe. The knight has to be carved if you're going to do it the traditional way. So really all we need is the base and a general form. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and do that so we get a good glimpse of how proportionate he will be to the rest of the pieces. Alright, so my base comes out here. It's going to come back a little bit more. There's bottom bead, top bead, alright, the knight is very heavy down in the belly kind of region of the knight, and then a lot of material is carved away up at the top. So the way that it intersects with the base is the same as with these other pieces. You have this kind of cutback that happens, and then you have an almost round section at the very bottom of the knight. So just for the sake of ease of understanding, I'm going to kind of carry out a little bit of this so you can see it. And then we have a huge curve on the back, and then the belly comes in and curves around, and you have the chin and the top of the head. Now, like I said, I'm not a great artist, so this kind of process is very trial and error still, even for me. But here are some of the things that I've figured out. We want to center the head, and we want it to not have a lot more weight visually than like the bishop would have or any of these other pieces. So we have to plan kind of how this thing, how much space this thing takes up. So I'm actually going to go ahead and come in on this base at 1 3/4 of these squares. So just almost half of an inch out is where I'm going to start my taper up. And I'm going to continue I'm going to continue this shape up. I'm going to go back away from the center line and then curve back towards the center line, kind of making a half light bulb. And then, just for the sake of symmetry, I'm going to continue the top of that light bulb around, so I get a sense of balance. It's less in height than the bishop. You can see it's following the taper down. And then I start to kind of place the head on the rest of this. Now the belly follows this curve back. And what I like to do whenever I'm drawing curves is I like to continue them just so that I get really good ideas of like what the flowing form looks like. And then I'm going to come in with my straight lines. Now the top ridge of a horse's nose is very drastic, very stark. And so is the top ridge just above their eyebrow. So I feel like those are two points which are important to kind of really think about and visualize and place on there. Those two top lines. Knowing where they're at kind of gives you a point of reference and makes drawing the rest of it much easier. So you could do something simple like that and round off some shapes. And then the horse's face is very angular. I mean, really, a horse's face and a dog's face are so similar that it's really easy to go and plan on drawing one and accidentally draw the other. So I don't mind if it looks a little bit like a dog. I'm going to draw some of that in. Now, one of the most stark differences about a horse's face and a dog's face is that a horse has a huge jaw muscle back in here, and this jaw muscle is super prominent. So I put a circle in, kind of a circular shape in for that, and let it connect into the bottom here. Now this could be a closed mouth knight. They have this funny shape where they kind of have a downward turned kind of smile, and then it goes straight back from there. But you know, as you can see, this is roughing out a pretty convincing knight shape without a whole lot of detail. And then I have to follow in and actually connect the neck into these curves. You have this belly come out. Now, this big drastic curve up here, you can start to actually cut in, because a horse's neck doesn't do that. It's much straighter. But the effect of that big curve is actually half brought on by the horse's mane. So as you start to like bring in the effects of having a mane carved on, you can take advantage of that drastic curve in your artwork. Horses also have this strange flare at the end of their nose, where their nostrils are. So you can start to put in more detail as you go. And the more you know about the actual shape of a horse, the better you'll be at this. I'm not an artist in the truest sense of the word, so as far as drawing goes. So this is good enough for me. I'll come in here and actually start cleaning some things up and go, you know what, I don't like this, I don't like that, I want to have the top of this jaw show up somewhere in here and bring it back on that way. And you start planning out actually where the cuts are going to go. Carving that will be probably a separate video all on its own, so I'll show how to do that. One thing that's always super important though is the eye. And I like a really intense eye shape. So I'll just kind of put some of the eye in so I have a reference as to where I'm gonna bring that. And that's pretty good. Of course we can't do without the ears. And having something is better than having nothing. So even if your ears are straight forward like that, or if they're back, however you want the attitude of the horse to be, that's how you're gonna do the ears. So you can start to see my shape anyway. As you go through this process on your own, you'll be obviously making your own choices on a lot of these curves, on a lot of these lines and such. Basic night.